Here's what Jesus said. Go learn what this means. I desire mercy rather than sacrifice. So how do we share mercy with the world? I want us to finish tonight with a posture. I'm going to ask you right now to give your absolute best to what God is going to tell you next. Hebrews chapter 9. We're going to be in some unfamiliar territory for a minute. The omnisphere, the world of God. Join me there. Now, the first covenant, talking about God's covenant with the people of Israel, it had regulations for worship and also an earthly sanctuary, a tabernacle, a big tent. It was set up there. In the first room were the lampstand and the table and consecrated bread. This was called the holy place. Behind the second curtain was a room called the most holy place, which had the golden altar of incense and the gold-covered ark of the covenant. This ark contained the gold jar of manna, which represented God's sustenance in the wilderness, Aaron's staff that budded, which represented God's leadership in the wilderness, and the stone tablets, which represented God's covenant. Above the ark were the cherubim. Think kind of like angels, the cherubim of glory, and they were overshadowing the atonement cover. Paul, or the writer of Hebrews, says, but we can't discuss these things in detail now. So think Indiana Jones series, think Ark of the Covenant, think artist rendition. This is what the ark would have looked like, and think about those gold-covered cherubim over the top. Now that top piece there, where those gold cherubim are, was called the mercy seat. This is an illustration for the present time, indicating that the gifts, sacrifices being offered were not able to clear the conscience of the worshiper. Not only a matter of food and drink and various ceremonial washings, external regulations applying to the time of the new order, but when Christ came, who is the inaugurator of the new order, he came as a high priest of the good things that are now already here. He went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle, that is to say, not made with human hands, that is to say, not a part of this creation. He didn't enter by the means of the blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once and for all by his own blood, thus obtaining eternal redemption. It was necessary then for the copies of the heavenly things to be purified with these sacrifices, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. See, Christ didn't enter a sanctuary made with human hands. That was only a copy of the true one. He entered heaven itself now to appear for us in God's presence. So a recap, the tabernacle of old pointed to Jesus. He is now the atoning sacrifice. That's why the Apostle John says, dear children, I write this to you so that you will not sin. But if anyone does sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ, the righteous one. He is the atoning sacrifice. Now, if you take those words in Greek and you put them in the Hebrew Old Testament to translate it into Greek, Jesus is the mercy seat. So let's go back to the original statement of the tabernacle, Exodus 25. Here's what you do. You have them make an ark. You know that Ark of the Covenant? Make it out of acacia wood. 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, 1.5 cubits high. Overlay it with pure gold, both inside and out. Make a gold molding around it. Make an atonement cover, the mercy seat, of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. And make the 2 cherubim out of hammered gold at the ends of the cover. Make one cherub on one end and the second cherub on the other. Make the cherubim of one piece with the cover at the 2 ends. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other, looking toward the cover. Now place the cover on top of the ark and put in the ark the tablets of the covenant of law that I will give to you. There, above the cover, between the 2 cherubim that are over the ark of the covenant, I will meet with you. There, above the ark, at the cover, between the ark and the cherubim, there I will meet with you and give you all my commands for the Israelites. Speaking about the high priest, he's to put incense on the fire before the Lord, and the smoke of the incense will conceal the atonement cover above the tablets of the covenant of the law, so that he will not die. Now, update in case you missed it. If you meet with God on human terms in the holy place, only one of you walks away, and it's not you. Leviticus 16:16. In this way, he will make atonement for the most holy place because of the uncleanness and the rebellion of the Israelites, whatever their sins have been. He will do this same for the tent of meeting, everyone out loud together, which is among them in the midst of their uncleanness. Where did God put his tabernacle, the place that he met with people? He could have put it up on the mountain. He could have put it outside the camp. But God planted it right in the midst of the uncleanness of his people. In case you missed it, God is prepared for your sin, and he'll get into it with you and help you shovel it. Numbers 7:89. When Moses entered the tent of meeting to speak with the Lord, he heard the voice speaking to him from between the two cherubim above the atonement cover. Can we read that again out loud? He heard the voice speaking to him from between the two cherubim above the atonement cover on the Ark of the Covenant of Law. It was in this way that the Lord spoke to him. Where did God say that he would meet with him? Above the Ark, below the cherubim, in between at the atonement cover. What's the atonement cover called? The mercy seat. Where does God meet with his people? The mercy seat is above. The law is below. If you could illustrate it, the mercy seat is above, the law is below. Where did God meet with his people? You've already read it 3 times. At the mercy seat. Where did he meet with them? At the mercy seat. If he met with them at the law, they wouldn't live to tell about it. He met with them at the mercy seat. How many of you have a family member that has a favorite chair? Yeah, it's common. My dad had a favorite chair. It was his recliner. My brother and I, my sister and I, we'd all sit in that chair together, and then we'd hear my dad pull up in his construction pickup, and when he pulled up, we'd all pile out of the chair because it was Dad's favorite chair. Granddad had a favorite chair. Grandma had a favorite chair. There was a television series called Frasier. It ran for years, right? Yeah, this show is a beast. But in the center of this show was a chair. Now, this is fascinating. They spent $500,000 on the set to furnish this apartment for the show. The show ran for 11 seasons, has nearly 30 Emmy Awards. And in the middle of it was this ugly chair. But this was Martin's chair. People loved the chair. Partway through the series, they decided to get rid of the chair. Now, hold on a minute, because I want to point out something. Do you see the duct tape on the chair? Here's what happened. Halfway through the series, they wanted to get rid of the chair, so they staged an episode where they threw the chair out the apartment, and it crashed down on the bottom on the street. Fans went nuts demanding they bring the chair back. So they had to go build another chair just like the last one and put duct tape on it so it looked like they had redeemed the original chair. The chair meant so much to the series that when the series finally went off the air in the final episode, they went and hired the original extra actor who was the moving guy that wheeled the chair in, and 11 years later they got that same guy to wheel the chair out. 11 months ago, when the actor who played Martin, John Mahoney, died, this is how they posted it online. Now, here's what I want to say to you. God has a favorite chair. God's favorite chair is the mercy seat. And if you want the right posture to the world, you got to have the same favorite chair. You see, part of what the church struggles with is we don't understand the posture of God. We think of God as coming at us with law, and we equate truth with law. But God's truth includes mercy. And God says, when I spoke to my people, I spoke to them above the law, below the cherubim, right there at the mercy seat. Why does God speak to his people from the mercy seat? Because God wants you to make it. Jesus' brother, James, wrote this in James chapter 4. Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against a brother or sister judges them and speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you're not keeping it, you're sitting in judgment on it. So rather than a mercy seat where God put it, you put a judgment seat. James 4:12, there's only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy, but you. Who are you to judge your neighbor? The author of the story Moby Dick, Herman Melville, said it like this: heaven have mercy on us all, Presbyterians and pagans alike. Apparently there were only two options for Herman Melville: the Presbyterians and the pagans, right? He said, for we are all somehow dreadfully cracked about the head and sadly in need of mending. This is how James says it in James chapter 2. Speak and act. Speak and act. Speak and act as those who are going to be judged by the law that gives freedom, because judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who does not be merciful. Mercy triumphs over judgment. When we step into our local, regional, and global world, we go with the posture of God. And that posture comes from God's favorite chair, the mercy seat. You see, this is how God is coming to you tonight. The law below. The law is there. God doesn't remove the law. Jesus didn't remove the law. It's not as if God has changed what he knows is best for human flourishing. God still believes that it is right for us to tell the truth to one another for we're members of one body, for us to not let anger get a foothold in our lives, for us to not grieve the Holy Spirit, for us to not have unholy things coming out of our mouth, for us not to be full of factions and divisions. God still believes it's right for us to live holy and pure lives, but you understand that all of that is below God's favorite chair, and God's favorite chair is mercy, and he's coming to you in mercy tonight. He's coming to you and telling you, you understand that I cannot stand the thought of my future without you in it. And when I thought of it from the very beginning in the omnisphere, where I was God and you were Xenos, you were the other, I came out of the omnisphere, through the omnisphere, and into the Xenosphere. I came in human flesh, and I filled the world as an agape sphere with my love. And I put you in a symbiotic sphere, the church, so that you could flourish. And now I'm asking you to go into the world and do what I do. So does the world know Christians as the most merciful people they've ever met? Does the world discover that one of the first things we gave up when we came to Christ was pettiness? Do people say about us, they're the hardest people in the world to offend? It just seems like you can't offend them with little things because they're so filled with love. We love because he first loved us. They say, you know, the first thing you notice about these people is they just seem to love everyone. They love me. It's like they see me. You see, for many people, it's kind of like we have to know them less to love them more. They have to hide what's going on in their life to be loved by us. I used to hear people all the time talk about being colorblind. Well, I'm just colorblind. Everybody ought to be colorblind. Do you understand that inherent in that says I have to know you less to love you more? That I have to not notice your color, because see, if I notice your color, it will go poorly. Why else would I need to be blind to your color? I wouldn't be blind to it if it was going to go well. I've never once said to my wife, baby, for this to work out, I got to be gender blind. I just kind of got to not notice that you're a woman. That's the only way this thing's going to work out. But it's awesome. We're going to be gender blind. No, we're going to be gender full. And you know what else? We're going to be a colorful church. Everyone bring who they are to its fullest. Don't go to one of my sons and say, we're colorblind. I love my son's brown color, just like I love my other children's lighter color. I love what God did when He made each person. God's the one that made the colorful world. He loves it, and we need to love it too. And we need to be the kind of people who lead with mercy in every sphere. So consider this, whether it's in church in Athens, whether it's in economics in Athens, or it's in politics in Athens, the gospel of Jesus Christ says that we know a God who came to the earth from the mercy seat, and He never left it. And if you want to meet that God, you're going to meet Him at the mercy seat. You say, I'm not worthy. You say, you may not feel worthy to you, but He doesn't share your opinion. You say, well, I don't feel good about myself. Hey, He can help you with it, because He's going to be your number one cheerleader. You're going to look at yourself and you just feel like, oh, I hate my body. I hate my intelligence. I hate this. I hate this. God says, it's okay. I understand where you are, but you give me a little bit of time, and I'm going to help you fall in love with you the way I fall in love with you. We're going to build campus ministries where people are going to discover that they can be fully known and fully loved. And in the locality of that agape love, our region and our world is going to be redeemed, and they're going to find a God waiting for them at the mercy seat. So let me ask you something. What would it be like for you to go back to your Athens, to your university, with the vision of God in your heart, that the world is headed toward God, headed toward God's promised outcome. And we're helping the world be redeemed right now by joining God in His mission. And every person we meet is going to have an opportunity through you to know how deeply they are loved. I want to thank you so much.